Hello there. We're going to try something a little different this year. We're going to track the growth of these two nukes, the nukes that we overwintered. We're going to track their growth together through all the things we do for it. The series is going to be geared mostly for a new beekeeper. We're kind of thinking of this video as this series as something we can reference to as we begin to sell nukes this year, hopefully, and just show, hey, here's the way we manage these nukes. We're not saying this is the best way to do it. We're not saying this is optimal. This is just what we do, and this can be a reference for you to refer to as to what we would do in a certain situation. So yeah, we're going to follow these two. We would recommend buying 2 nukes at a time. It's pretty much standard practice. There's not many problems that a colony can have that can't be solved by another healthy colony. So by having at least 2, you're setting yourself up for success by allowing you to solve different problems with the other colony. So yeah, we're going to start by getting these out of their nuke boxes and putting them into deeps, and that'll start the management for this year.
These particular nukes were brought here and dropped off last night and opened up last night to give them a chance to settle down and get used to where they're at. Typically we'd be seeing more flying when it's a cool overcast day, so the bees aren't really moving too much. So they're going to be a little bit jumpier than they otherwise would be, but they'll still be plenty fine to work. And yeah, this should be fairly straightforward to get in here and get them to where we want them to be. First step is to get them smoked.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to buy them, move them, and then do this work all in one day.
Yeah, they will be very, very fussy.
Let them move them, let them set that evening. The next day they have a little bit of time to fly. Hopefully the foragers can leave, and then you can do this work. So what we have here is a deep, standard 10 frame deep. We're using drawn combs here. If you're brand new, you wouldn't have drawn combs. The only difference is you would be using foundation or ideally a foundationless frame, and it just will mean your colony grows a little bit slower than these. We have this available, so we're going to use it, as should you.
And we're not going to handicap these colonies for the sake of being pure to what a new beekeeper would have.
So we have 5 frames going to pull out of that nuke and into there, so we made a little bit of extra space. Let's see, we got nice healthy little nuke here.
Give them some smoke before I go into them.
And this is not a long or complicated process. We're just moving them. We're going to be putting a empty frame in the middle of the brood nest. Just because of the time of year it is, they're ready to grow. They're growing very quickly, so we're gonna help them with that.
We don't want to slow them down at all.
Just breaking the frames loose.
And in this particular box, when I picked it up, the entrance is at this end, so I'm going to keep the orientation of the frames as I move them over. We're going to keep them all going in the same direction and in roughly the same spot, except for the one frame that we're going to put in the middle. It's a nice healthy frame. Looks like a resource frame that'll go good right on the outside. Hopefully the queen jumps this resource frame and starts laying in the outside frame. So we'll have to be aware of that going into the future. I guess we'll see that in further videos. Sometimes they treat that as a wall and stop.
Yeah, we may need to come in here and checkerboard these again, spread the brood nest out further yet. There's a good brood frame, we'll drop that in. Now we'll put our empty frame in, slide that thing over, and now we can just transfer the rest of the nuke. Not really concerned about seeing the queen here.
I'm still going to look at every frame.
We're going to try to, if we can see her, great, but I'm not going to kill myself trying to find it.
Yeah, a little jumpier than I would like them to be, but it's a cool overcast day.
We shouldn't be left in these boxes too terribly long. The frame spacing isn't right. And you can cause yourself some more hassle long term, so do want to get them out of the box within a week or so. Alright, that one was probably about 2 frames of brood. I see the queen here crawling on that frame. See the marked queen down there. So that's good to see her. We know for sure that we got her in the box now. Or into the deep, I should say. That's good. That one's maybe on the smaller side.
Yeah, be a little bit more careful with that frame. The queen's on it.
Drop in our other frame. Now we'll use the hive tool and pry all the frames together. Make space for the last one.
Calm them down a little bit. They shouldn't be this jumpy, but it's a cool day. They're jumpy, not stingy though.
In you go. Now we'll slap the inner cover on there.
Oh, I want to square my frames up first.
Square the frames up first. Slap the inner cover on and off you go. And then we're just going to do the same thing with the other colony. And that's going to be all the work for this week. We'll probably be back in a week or so from now.
Well, don't forget the step where you knock the bees out.
Oh yeah, knock the bees out of the box too, right in front of the colony. But that's about the last of it. We'll come back and do the rest of the work, or we'll do more work in about a week. We'll let them settle in, let that queen start to use that frame that we dropped in the middle, or let the bees start to draw that frame. And off we go. That's the start of our year. Okay, so we're just doing the second one here. When you're opening these nukes, you should double check the inside of the cover, looking for a queen. Every now and then you'll find her there. Another thing we should mention is about the entrances. The first one we did here is using a bottom board with a 3/8 entrance. That's pretty small already. They can defend that pretty well. The second one has a 3/4 entrance, so we put a pretty large entrance reducer down there to just give them a smaller entrance for now as they grow and become a deep of bees instead of a nuke of bees. But just a few little notes there. The second one looks to be a little bit stronger than the last one, if anything.
They're drawing comb.
Yeah, that's freshly drawn comb there. We're just doing the same thing we just did.
Some nice cap brood.
Nice cap brood
See lots
frame.
of young bees running around on these frames. Do you have someone you can point out on your side, like young bees?
You can see here, really young bee. See how white she is? Just recently emerged. In. Slide the frame over. In with the rest of them. If the nuke is especially strong, like 4 frames of brood, we'd probably checkerboard in 2 undrawn frame or 2 empty frames. Let's see how many we end up having here. Looks like that might be most of it already.
This colony is going to explode. Lots of cap brood, lots of young bees. Beautiful weather this coming week.
There's our queen, and she's actually not marked. We'll take care of that. Alright, so we just marked that queen as we're going along. That's not a required step.
Hopefully it's done in the nuke that you buy.
Yeah, it might be done already. If you want to do it, you can, but just be careful. We did it here just for our ease of management going forward. This one was about 2 frames of cap brood, so these 2 nukes are very similar in strength. Both of them are going to do great. You'll be surprised what happens to these in about a month. So, great. We'll leave them alone for about a week. Another important thing to note is we do manage on foundationless frames, so likely the 5 frames that are in those nuke boxes would be foundationless, which we should have a whole nother video about that coming out later this year. You might want to go watch that. The most important clarification is you got to be a little careful with picking them and twisting them like this, or you're liable to have this happen. The whole comb can break out. So if you're dealing with it, you're picking it up, just try to keep that frame hanging vertically. We can do this, we can do this. You can get away with a little bit of this, but just be careful. Watch that frame. It's not as sturdy as a foundation frame is, especially when it's not attached at the bottom at all like this. We have a little bit on the side, so it does support itself somewhat. You don't have to be, it's not an egg, but just don't be twisting this one.
If it's full of honey and brood, it's going to flop right
off. Yeah. So just make sure you're keeping that frame hanging. You can tilt it a little bit, but if you go sideways, you're going to have trouble. So just an important clarification there.